welcome you to Leesburg, Virginia, and a Wednesday night in the USL Championship. Loudoun United return home. 4 consecutive defeats in all competitions, trying to turn the tide tonight against New Mexico United, traveling cross-country and somehow beating Loudoun home in the process. More on that to come. Joined by Jeff Attinella, Mike Watts on hand, excited to have you along for the ride. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference standings. Right now, this Loudoun side has plummeted over the last few games. They are in playoff position. At this stage, Jeff, all that matters for Loudoun, you get a win today, you suddenly move right up to 6th, everything's right in the world.
You got to get points. It's that time of the year. You got a home game coming off a tough loss over the weekend. The name of the game is getting points, and this is a good opportunity for you to get that at home.
Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, New Mexico United coming off a difficult defeat at the hands of Austin in the Open Cup. It's a group that's now just below the playoff line, but a win here today would move them into 6th place as well. All right, let's take a look at Loudoun's most recent performance. It was at El Paso. In theory, good news the way they performed there, but the overarching narrative over the last 4 games is they haven't been able to consistently win on the field in the Open Cup or the league.
Speaking with the coach, it was all about making the most of their opportunities in front of goal. He was really happy with how they played, but at the end of the day, if you're giving up a late goal and taking a tough loss, the bounce back for tonight's game is very important to see how they respond to dealing with that type of adversity.
6 points out of the last 5 matches for Loudoun United, and they ended up falling on an 89th minute locomotive winner in Texas over the weekend. Zach Ryan is the focus for every opponent at this point, and a lot of kind words from Ryan Martin about our player to watch, presented by Betfred.
Speaking with the coach, he is the pulse of this team. He's the leader of this team, and the way that they like to press, his tempo is going to dictate how Loudoun opens this game. Look for him to be buzzing along early, setting the tempo, setting the press high, and really leading the team from the front.
All he's done is manage 5 goals in 7 games this year. All the while for New Mexico United, this is a team that, again, sits in 9th place. They've done a lot of good things. They're very vertical, and they can be very difficult to defend.
If you're New Mexico, you're looking at this game as a very winnable game on the road. It's a team that is also searching for points. I expect them to come and play for the win because they see a Loudoun team that has been struggling, has been dealing with a little bit of adversity. It's a great opportunity for them to get a momentum-building win on the road.
And you can see 8 points out of the last 5 games, but road struggles have been pretty consistent. They bring Sergio Rivas among 3 additions to the lineup, with Sam Hamilton out on suspension, Suggs and Hurst drop as well.
You're looking for difference makers. You're looking for somebody that could spark the group, and bringing in Sergio Rivas is a good opportunity for him to try to make his mark on this team and really swing the way that this season has been going so far.
Big box-to-box midfielder trying to make an impact here in Leesburg tonight. Beautiful night outside the District of Columbia in Loudoun County. The pregame show has been presented by Segra. Lineups kick off when we return for New Mexico United and Loudoun United.
Business today is fast, unpredictable, always changing. Shifting trends and technologies are pushing aside old rules. The unexpected is the new normal. Segra is here to help you get what's next with our best-in-class connectivity, cybersecurity, cloud, and collaboration solutions. Whatever your business dreams, we have the network and services to get you there. Segra, giving your business the freedom to grow today. Segra is a proud sponsor of the Loudoun United Football Club.
Segra Field in Leesburg on this Wednesday night. A smaller crowd than we had. We do have a dog, of course, in attendance. Not the 323 that we saw for Louisville's Bark at the Park night, but still an enjoyable time for all, canine and human. All right, here's the lineup that Loudoun United has assembled for Ryan Martin. They make one change. Hayden Sargis, first start of the season for the team. Abdul Zane sits.
Coming in a 3-5-2, they're going to be looking to dictate their press from the top. This is a formation that the coach is having to get comfortable with, even though they're not used to playing this. It'll be interesting to see how they do it on their second night.
All the while for New Mexico, Weehan and Moar, some big guns entering the lineup. Sergio Rivas, as we mentioned in the open. Hamilton suspended. Suggs and Hurst to the bench.
Couple new players in for the lineup. You're going to expect a 4-3-3 out of this team. A lot of their attack comes from their center backs, so it'll be interesting to see how they're able to do that with the press that Loudoun presents.
All right, we are ready to roll here. New Mexico in highlighter yellow, ready to move right to left on your screen. Loudoun United back at home, hoping to find a little home cooking that puts them back on the right side of the ledger. Underway on this Wednesday night in the championship, Loudoun United hosting New Mexico United in Loudoun County, Virginia. Snap forward by Sargis. Good to see his return after a significant stint with Loudoun United on loan from DC United in the past 18 games in 2022. And with the news that Yasu Samake would be called into DC United, he's the natural progression to get back on loan in a separate and equally important transaction. Snap back by Santos and a Farrow. You know, Jeff, we hear about some of the travel hijinks that occur in American soccer as it gets launched up through the left-hand side. Williamson wants it played to him. Instead, Ryan bypasses Armenakis and finds Santos. This is a Loudoun team that over 2 flights did finally make it home, but spent 2 days longer in El Paso than they had initially anticipated. The New Mexico flight arrived before any of the Loudoun players got back from their road game. So how do you get your head around it here on a Wednesday night?
I can't say that in my career I had to deal with that exact situation where the visiting team shows up before the home team. But these are young guys. You know, these are guys who are looking to prove themselves. They're looking to, really put their stamp on this season and really just make a mark for everybody throughout the league. So being that they're young, being that they're dealing with a lot of adversity, it's almost one of those things where when all the chips get stacked against you, you might see a little bit more in your team, and they almost have nothing to lose with that mindset that, they know that New Mexico showed up a little bit earlier than them, that they beat them on the flight, that they didn't get the type of practices in that they would have liked. But, sometimes when you're working it with everything against you, sometimes it plays in your favor. And early on, you're seeing Loudoun controlling the ball. They look good. They're spreading the game out a little bit, controlling possession. And so far, it's a good start for a team that arrived about 48 hours ago to their home state.
Armenakis circulated to Jeremy Garay. Spin from Chica, overtaken by Moreno. That's a foul won by Amando Moreno.
It's early in the game, but I already like Loudoun's patience with the ball. They play a long diagonal ball forward. It looks like they might have the opportunity to get behind. They get a good switch of play. Wasn't there. They put their foot on the ball. They bring it back around, and they start over and reestablish their possession. I like that start from Loudoun.
Seymour. He got chopped down, and a good chance for us to take a look at today's keys to the game. They're brought to you by Country Buick GMC of Leesburg. For Loudoun, you want tempo, but you also want to establish that press early. Yeah,
you can see it earlier already. You have Ryan setting the press very high, and he's playing very aggressive. They're trying to squeeze him to that right side early on, and that was a key point for Coach Martin when he was talking about their game plan. Is it's all going to be dictated on their pace, and if in the first 15 minutes, if they're buzzing, if they're setting that press, he knows it's going to be a good night for his team. And so far in the first 3 minutes, we've already seen that, and it's been led by Ryan.
And New Mexico, no pun intended, weather that early storm.
They have to. They have to. They're on the road. They're going to get that. Loudoun's going to get that home boost. Like I said, they're going to have that energy knowing that they have everything stacked against them, their travel, the difference in the lineups and the things that are changing around them. If you're New Mexico, you just got to be patient with the ball. You got to get through the first 15 minutes without too much damage, and then just try to settle into the game when you're on the road.
Good thievery from Chica. Roll back to Sargis. Washington keys the middle of a back three tonight for Loudoun, still without Hannes Learman. Williamson able to hold it up, and now extending down the line. Ryan the central run, Armenakis available as well, but it's back through Santos. Stabbed out by Moar. There's some New Mexico fans that apparently beat Loudoun to the field too.
I wonder if they were on the same flight as the team.
Yeah, right?
That's commitment. That's a great trap on a Wednesday to travel like that. That's good commitment from the fans. You love to see that.
It's not a shock for this rabid New Mexico fan base.
Beautiful time of year to explore this part of the country.
Absolutely. The blossoms this time of year, I suppose. DC, Loudoun area. Sargis. Santos. Garay. It's a long run for Almedcar. Room to line up Swartz. Into Garay. Got the return from Williamson. Garay and ricochets to Alex Tambakis.
It doesn't come off in the end, but that attack starts from the back. Roca checks in, springs the ball out, deals with the pressure, switches the field of play, and I'm very impressed so far with how Loudoun's been able to keep possession. That comes from switching the play, being patient, working their way up the field, finding the open players. Next thing you know, you're inside the 18. Not a great chance, but you know what they're doing when they're keeping possession like that and moving it up the field. So far, it's been really well done.
Wagner got spun off by Sargis. Now you saw that pressure on Yearwood from Loudoun, and he tosses forward as quickly as he can. That's where the pressure can at least alleviate New Mexico's possession in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, great switch of play here. I'm loving the side to side. New Mexico's buzzing. There they are. Credit to New Mexico as well, though. You know, they're not really sitting back in these early 6 minutes. They're pressing. They're making things a little bit harder on them, riding the pressure up the back, making Loudoun keep possession, but Loudoun's done a good job so far.
Well, there was a feeling for Zach Prince leading into that New Mexico-Austin game. We're going to go down the way we play. If that's how it ultimately ends, it's not going to be because we went in and bunkered in Austin or we go on the road and attempt to bunker. We're going to play our football, and we're going to earn the right to do it.
And that's from both coaches. I love that approach. Doesn't matter home or on the road. You want to play your style of play, and if you have belief in your team, you have belief in your lineup and your style, then there's no reason to change when you're changing locations.
Well, Moar got tossed. Santos clapping for the ball. There's nothing to it. Net by Yearwood, in through Rivas. Moreno. Good from Chica onto Garay. Ryan through Garay. Rocha.
That's well done there by Armenakis coming in, checking in, and switching the field of play. He's not receiving the ball up top, so he goes back and gets it and swings out the other side to alleviate from the pressure.
Pressure bracketing in from Wagner. And Hugo Farol beyond Santos. Down by Moar through Rivas and now Yearwood. 5th year, New Mexico United, one of the originals for the franchise. Moreno on a solo mission, Chica through Almedcar. tidy work from Armenakis.
Well done. Well done. He's done a good job dealing with the pressure at his back, switching the field of play, playing quick.
He's feeling himself tonight, isn't he?
He is. Getting the ball, bouncing it off, quick 1-2s in the midfield. So far, everything's been very decisive. 9 minutes in, and I don't think either team has stopped sprinting on defense. I'd expect this to calm down a little bit, but so far the pace on defense has been high press from both teams. I think they've had as many energy drinks as you had.
There's a high, well, actually, I was going to say there's a likelihood of that. I'm not so sure.
Might not be able to run. Might not be able to run on that many energy drinks.
No, Ryan Martin looks on. That's all natural energy that he brings to the table. It's been that way since he jumped into this team just months into its inaugural season. Portillo. Oh, Ryan flying in instead. Yearwood now. Gonna bring play back. If you're Loudoun, you wanted to see them establish the press earlier. Are you satisfied in the manner in which they have?
I am. Ryan set the tempo. Everything's stepping high. Whenever the ball gets played back, the entire Loudoun team stepping up. The forwards are doing a good job of trying to keep it to one side. Squeezing New Mexico to one side, not letting them really establish much possession.
When we spoke to Ryan Martin, it was Zach Ryan, the leader of that press, the guy who sort of orchestrates from the front. Has that been your experience, that it's typically the striker that takes that role?
Yeah, it all starts with the forward. If the forward goes, then it's up to the midfield to stay with him, and then once you see the midfield step, and the defense has to step up and engage as well. The important part of the forward is, the most important part is really keeping them to one side. So you want to dictate your press so that the rest of the team knows, okay, if we're squeezing them to the right, then everybody's got to go that way, and the forward dictates that by rounding his run and really just shaping the team so that the defense can set themselves up on the one side and keeping them there.
Weehan had a nice run through midfield and opened it up for Moar. Moar clipping for the backside. Portillo, watch out. Portillo! A blast off the leg of Moreno. It was unfortunate to be in the way. It's a goal kick in the end.
This is where I expect the game, right? The first 10 minutes, you get through the game, first 10 minutes, both teams are buzzing. They have that quick burst of adrenaline like everybody does to start a game. New Mexico has so far done a good job of weathering the storm. Not too many dangerous chances through Loudoun's possession, through their press. This is where I expect the game to start settling down a little bit so teams can establish a little bit more possession, and the press might not be as quick as it has been throughout the first 10 minutes.
Loudoun's giving it away cheaply. Returned by Moar. Weehan able to find Yearwood. Ryden. Seymour. Rivas brought it down. Levied it back. Rocha collects. Swart's a little more familiar than most in the New Mexico side, with Loudoun having played with Hartford for a few years. Was actually in 2020 part of that group. The USL went to 14 groups. It was Pittsburgh, Loudoun, Red Bull 2, and Hartford. They all played each other 4 times in 16 games, and then had a handful of outside the division games as well. It's a good slide to win the ball free, and Armenakis leads the charge with Williamson to his right, but he'll take it himself off the face of Ryden. And Ryden goes down. Referee stopping play. Luis Arroyo has the whistle. As you'd anticipate with any potential head injury, he looks shaken up from the moment this made contact.
Great run here from Armenakis. Ryan does a good job of trying to clear the space. I would have liked to see him open up maybe a little bit to the other side, just because you already had Williamson making that run down the right, but he does a good job of opening space for Armenakis, and he has a good left foot, so he decides to take a hit. Unfortunately for the New Mexico player, he took the brunt of it, but I think it was a block that was necessary.
The good news is the New Mexico captain's back up and about. You know, Armenakis, one of the most interesting players in the league this year. You know, you think of the Guardian 50, and if you're unfamiliar, it's the 50 best young players in the world that, I don't know, 5 writers for the Guardian have established. Armenakis was in that group in 2015. He's had a passport stamped about 1,000 times between that time and now. But an article that came out from USLsoccer.com, he goes, I am the most talented player in the league. He's got high expectations for himself, and whether or not Armenakis can live up to them in terms of goal contributions remains to be seen. But we've seen those little flashes tonight where you think the confidence is warranted.
You want that out of your number 10, right? You
Sure.
want a number 10 who's very confident, and you know, anytime you're mentioned in any type of article, if you're saying you're top 50 at anything, I have to imagine that's a pretty good thing for your confidence. But you want that type of attitude out of your number 10. You want somebody that believes they can change the game and, you know, really dictate the way that the team's playing. So far, to be fair, he's done a very good job on the ball, on the dribble, connecting with his teammates, making runs, 1-2 quick bounce passes. So, you know, for right now, I mean, I think he's living up to his own billing, which is always good to see.
Quarter hour gone here in Leesburg alongside a former top 50 MLS goalkeeper for however you decide to rate. Jeff Attinella and Mike Watts on hand. New Mexico United on the road taking on this Loudoun side, both looking for a win that moves them into much more firm playoff position here midweek. Yearwood launching for Moreno. Weehan nearly picked up the loose change. Now it's Portillo. Bounces out to Santi Moar. All I know is top 50 has you on a roster.
The top 50 will definitely keep you on a roster.
You are on a roster.
I would keep that article on my resume at all times just to make sure that it never falls through the cracks.
Attempt to lift that in behind. Yearwood covered the ground. Chica. Rocha got away from him. Rivas couldn't scoop it. Instead, Weehan nearly through. Chica fending off Mondo Moreno, winning a free kick in the process.
We talk so much about the press, but part of this game that's been interesting as it starts to unfold a little bit is how are both teams going to defend once they're forced to be in their block, right? We're stressing how much teams want to press, how much both of these teams want to dictate with their press when they play backwards. You see teams stepping up. How are they going to be able to defend when they're forced to be in their block? Because at some point the press, you're going to get tired. How are both these teams going to be able to deal with that when it's a little bit different from what they normally do?
Armenakis pitchforking for Williamson. Koa Santos available. It got deflected. Moar. At some point, there has to be a truce to get to that point, though, right?
I would think so. I thought it was going to be about 5 or 6 minutes ago based
and me
off of the
both.
travel record, and I'm not sure what the weather is tonight down there, but you know, it's something where eventually this game, they're going to have to stop pressing at some point and settle into those blocks, but in the first 20 minutes, it's been really high energy, which is really impressive from both of these squads.
Seasonable 68. We could be doing this for an hour.
That's true. Maybe every 10 minutes I'll be saying, I'm waiting to see how they defend in their block.
And meanwhile, New Mexico at high elevation, Loudoun County at 341 feet at this venue. A little different than the Mile High. Armenakis stridently. Santos. That's 4 white shirts all in a cavalcade. Santos again. Got away from Moreno. Ryan spinning off on his left. Bounce. Waiting grasp of Alex Tembakis.
When Armenakis gets this ball and starts penetrating, there's been 2 times now where everybody has made runs to the right. If they can have another run or another outlet for him out to the left to stretch the defense out a little bit, it'll give him a little bit more options. And even if he wants to take that hit, the defense will be a little bit more spread out and he'll have a little bit more clear of a vision on goal. If they can get that outside run to the left going the way that they are getting to the right at the same time, that's going to start making some very dangerous situations.
Is that one of those things, you're talking now about 10 games into the season across the league, you start to get a feel for a new player in a team and where they like to go and make those runs more cognitively because you know who's on the ball and where they like to go?
It could be. You know, I think it's something where they see the space, so they decide that that's a good space for them to fill. If you're looking at this game, whenever Armanakis has the ball so far, it's been Williamson making that run wide right, and then Ryan coming in underneath of that run, also to the right side. My point being that if they can get somebody to spread them out just a little bit more, when Armanakis has the ball, everyone isn't going to be shading to that one side and really bottling up the middle. Then that way it spreads out the defense a little bit, so they have to account for that runner. If they don't, it leaves that open man. So if they can get that extra runner opening up wide on both sides, then you're going to find a little bit more dangerous situations when he's penetrating on top of the 25-yard out mark.
Moar able to win a corner on the other end. Now the sun doesn't appear to be as big an issue as we often see maybe a month ago when the sun's setting this time of day, but the sun does usually set over this corner of the field. Shouldn't be as big an issue for Farrell, one would think.
Shout out Daylight Savings Time.
Yeah, not a moment too soon. Portillo, a keeper came off his line and took quite the shot. It's going to be a corner on the other end.
That's a great cross in as well, because for a goalkeeper, you want to see the ball. If the ball is a little bit more elevated, it makes it a little bit easier of a decision. But those medium balls that are hovering right above everybody's head, it's almost like a ball that wants to bait the goalkeeper into coming out because you think you can get it. But then with a corner kick, you're dealing with so much traffic that it's very hard for the goalie to get to. He needs to be a little bit more decisive in if he's going to stay, if he's going to go, especially on a low-driven ball like that, because those ones are tough for the goalie to get to with all that in front of you.
Portillo, Swartz, from Chica. That'll do the job for Loudoun. Maybe a little bit more Williamson at full stride. Played by Timbakis, why not?
Good patience there. That's not easy to do when you're backpedaling and you're seeing a forward running full speed ahead. Good patience there from the goalkeeper to drop himself back almost all the way to his goal line to give his defenders time to open up.
You know, those are the kind of things that your agent really sells to clubs. You know, somewhere Yanni Saris is sitting at home thinking, Jeff Attinella said, that's a difficult skill, throw that on the reel. This is bypassing Portillo and into Yearwood.
It's one of those unsung things that a lot of goalkeepers don't get credit for, you know, backing up all the way to your goal line and being comfortable. I'm here to shout out the goalkeeper union.
Absolutely. That's good for El Medcar. El Medcar, that's going to skip into the air and create some problems. Yearwood read it well. Armanakis twists the ball in behind. That Select ball makes its way out. Select is the official match ball supplier of the USL Championship. Many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit www.us.select-sport.com. The latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. Going to work with them on fewer dashes and dots next year.
Forget the domain name from whoever has the fewer dashes and dots.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to mention what the old URL was. I'm just saying it was a simpler read. Mr. Seymour. See what Swartz can do. Weehan. Brilliant to have him back in the lineup for New Mexico. See how much time he can give today. He's probably not quite stretched out to 90 minutes yet. If you had to guess, just returned in the Open Cup, the Austin game, after missing since week 2 of the season. Yearwood steps through. There's room here if Elmedkar doesn't intervene, and he had. Through for Moreno. Shoved off by Chica. So it's Swartz off of Elmedkar.
There's great spacing right now from New Mexico. They're stretching the game out. They're making Loudoun chase. They know Loudoun wants to press like this. Okay, so they're going to stretch the game out, keep possession, switch sides. Of course, as I started talking, they turn the ball over. But they've done a good job of spreading the game out, making Loudoun chase as much as they have, and just switching the point of play and being patient when they're on the ball. Their spacing has been really important to the way that they're keeping possession.
Ryden nods it out, and they gained about 70 yards of field position off that. Outpace Santos.
It was the right idea, just didn't connect with it.
Would you say either side's at an advantage the way this game is gone? Because statistically, the expected goals say there hasn't been all that much between them yet.
No, I think it's been pretty even. I think that Loudoun had the initial wave, and then as New Mexico started settling into the game, they've been able to deal with that possession a little bit better. And both teams have done a good job of, once they have the ball in the team's 25, of just establishing a second wave of pressure or really stepping up their pressure so that the team, once they're in that zone, they're keeping the ball, they're moving the team side to side, looking for cracks. But like I said, teams in their block, when they like to press, how are they going to do in their block? And both teams have done a good job of keeping everything in front of them.
Williamson stride for stride with Seymour. Swartz racing forward. Weehan. Ryan. Santos. There's a push there, and it's an irrelevant finish from Williamson. Well, how Williamson was unmarked is fairly obvious. Nevertheless, Williamson puts this in another zip code.
Santos makes a great overlapping run. It's a good ball in. Defender falls down. I almost think Williamson didn't really realize how much time he was going to have on the ball when the initial cross came in, and he made his mind up beforehand. But that's what we talked about with Coach Martin. You get a good opportunity, you get a good ball in, you get a chance in front of the net, you at least have to make the goalie make a save. Put him under pressure, put the goalkeeper under some form of pressure, but looks like that, if you're a forward, don't come very often in games. So that's definitely one that Williams is going to want to get back.
I'm still somewhat shocked it's not a foul.
Yeah, there's that too, but maybe he was expecting a foul call or something, but that's what I'm talking about. It's a good overlapping run.
Yeah.
He had multiple options of where he went with the ball. Santos makes that overlapping run wide, gives him a good opportunity to pick his head up and pick out his forward in front of the net.
Driven away by Farreau. That was a big part of the conversation, is Ryden able to hold up Zach Ryan long enough. They were pleased with how they handled dictating tempo, and a good performance in El Paso, maybe as good as anyone had had. This gets knotted into Williamson. Elmedkar chasing through the left channel. Ryden got a piece. Throws with Loudoun. It's just the finishing part right now that Loudoun can't quite grasp.
And that's the hardest part of the game, putting the ball in the back of the net. That's why goals are so important. But you could tell that they're very happy with their performance from the weekend, even though it was a tough loss, because they've approached the first half of this game. They're very confident. They're confident on the ball. They're confident in their press. They got their first good look at the game.
Wagner had snap back from Moreno. He knew he wouldn't get there. Chica has siphoned it off. Well, that's a brighter transition moment from New Mexico, and they are wildly dangerous in those moments. Oh, wow, Santos. He eluded everybody, but he was offside. Won't count for Zach Ryan. Santos running amok with the offside flag, and we may not have a great view at what the AR was looking at.
If he was off, I think it was just by a step, but that's a great switch of play to get out of that pressure. Just a little bit of a step offside with Santos, but these overlapping runs down the right side, they're starting to become a factor in this game, and he's done a good job of opening himself up as an option out there.
No Medcar, that's a foul.
Oh, you hate to see that foul called, because that was the perfect press. They squeeze it on that side. He has nowhere to go. His only chance is to dribble out or play a long ball. You commit the foul, and unfortunately now New Mexico's off and running down the other side. But when you draw up a press, that's exactly how you want it to look. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Force them to do the hard thing.
Sargis. Yearwood, Chica, over Wagner. Find its way in behind. Hung up on the turf a bit. Williamson corrals. Santos. Ryan running centrally. Santos back through Armanakis. Armanakis curling for the back post over Ryan and out.
I liked what I saw out of Williamson on that sequence. Makes a long run, controls the ball, he picks his head up, realizes that he's all alone up front, puts his foot on it, plays it back, they switch it out the other side, give the other attackers a time to get up into the box. Unfortunately, the cross wasn't there, but he did a good job of making that long run to stretch New Mexico out, holds the ball up, he's patient, restarts everything so that he can switch it out the other side, and they get a good look on goal. It didn't end up with a shot or anything like that, but you know, you're creating dangerous crossing opportunities for your own team when you're doing that.
Whistle goes here. That's Weehan. Offside. We'll tell you, you don't want to miss a minute of the action in 2023, whether your club is on the road or at home. Catch nearly every second of USL Championship action on ESPN+. It's your home to USL Championship, USL League One, La Liga, Bundesliga, UFC, and more. Sign up today, plus.espn.com. This path is the one less traveled for Loudoun. Well, that's Williamson showing his strength off Ryden. Well, here's the question you were asking, right? Once you get into half field, how does the low block perform? Armanakis slices that in behind. El Medcar, met by Swartz.
New Mexico is stepping to players so aggressively. Every time somebody gets the ball, and they're riding Williamson when he's holding him up. I heard a member in the crowd yelling, "This isn't wrestling," but that's great defending. He has a player on his back. He's stepping up. But when players step up like that, if you're not comfortable in your block and players are stepping out of position, a long ball like that, a little dink over the top, could be something that causes you a little bit of trouble. It didn't come off there for Loudoun, but if you're New Mexico, you have to be careful with stepping out, flying out to every single ball, every single pass, because one run behind could beat you.
It wasn't a bad idea in El Medcar either.
Not at all. It's the right idea when you're dealing with pressure like that.
Wagner. Look at Ferreau to perspire just a bit. Santos.
Just missed it. Another good overlapping run. Santos is giving them a lot of trouble down this left side of New Mexico.
You and I both sort of did the same will it fair kind of thing.
It didn't work.
Yeah. There's Zach Prince, a little closer to home. He's from South Carolina. Grew up going to University of South Carolina games. Actually got to coach against one of his idols, Josh Wolf, the former Gamecock, in that game in Austin. Spoke about being at Q2 Stadium and one of the gems of North American, even intimated world soccer. And they put out quite the crowd for New Mexico United, perhaps well aware of what they had done in the past. Lifted through for El Medcar. Flag stayed down here.
That was pretty tricky by Armanakis there. A little flick over the back line.
In a game where both teams have expended so much energy, do you look at a guy sometimes and go, really? Tricks and flicks now? We've been running all day. That's a wonderful step through by Wagner to set up Moar. Back for Wagner if he can get there. Sargis, Wagner still all the way across. Moreno! Armando Moreno the finish on the feed from Weehan. And New Mexico has finally broken through on the road. And for the moment, the traveling support has much to be excited about. And for Moreno, the New Jersey native, he knows just where to celebrate.
Here we're talking about New Mexico. New Mexico's done a good job with their press. A little bit of a mistouch there. Moar on the run, makes a solid overlapping run. I thought the ball was going to turn over here, but Wagner does a good job of sticking with it. Plays the ball hard across the box. You're looking for numbers. He finds his man. Moreno does a good job of finding the right spot. That's well done by Wagner, just putting a dangerous ball across the box. He picks his head up, finds a yellow shirt. Moreno does a good job of being at the right space at the right time. Goalkeeper runs out, patient, calm, composed. Against the run of play a little bit if you're Loudoun, but if you're New Mexico, you're not going to argue. You talked about how they're good in transition. They do a good job of turning the ball over. They make overlapping dangerous runs, and they get numbers in front of the box. Ends up being a nice little tap in for Moreno.
And you have a feeling there was just a little bit extra in that celebration for Moreno. All the while, Williamson brought down here. So if you're Loudoun, you've done a lot right. Up until that point, New Mexico had 0.02 expected goals. They had hardly created anything on target. They create that, all of a sudden, Loudoun's playing from behind.
When you're playing possession in the back, you got to be careful with the ball. Anything can happen when the ball turns over like that. But for New Mexico, I was very impressed by how quick the transition happened. Wagner makes that overlapping run. He gives himself an option, plays the ball hard across the box. You got yellow shirts in there, and every time you're deep down in the box like that, just playing a hard ball across the center of the goal is going to cause some type of problem. Moreno puts it in, celebrates with his fans, and now New Mexico's up 1-0, and Loudoun, who's been pretty dominant in possession, now they're chasing the game a little bit at home, which has been a little bit against the run of play here of late.
Armanakis header snapped by Ryan to the waiting Tembakis.
Good timing. This game needed a goal. This game needed a goal. I think now we're going to see a little bit of things stepping up a little bit. Good ball in, opportunity gets onto the goalie, easy save for the goalie here, but the way that both these teams are playing, you can tell that they're both going for the win. So getting a goal is really going to start stretching things out a little bit. And I think this will open up the game a little bit more, so we'll see some more chances on net.
do you start to feel once you get to this point of the season, you're hanging around the playoff line? If you're New Mexico, you're a point below the line. If you're Loudoun, you are literally the line. Need to go start picking up threes and not ones.
Absolutely. I think that this is a game that both these teams felt like they could win.
Yeah.
And whenever you have two teams that want to win, it doesn't matter if the team's home or away, that's when the games start opening up. And that's when you start seeing, okay, Loudoun's down by 1 now. They want to get 3 points at home, no doubt about that. And the way that they've been playing, they've been doing a good job keeping possession. And now that both teams are going to be chasing the game a little bit, I've been saying this for a while. I'd expect New Mexico to stop pressing as much, but it seems like one of their cues is every time the ball goes back to the goalkeeper, they're going to start flying. And, you know, when you're going for the win like that, you're going to keep pressing this tempo.
Wind in their sails coming off the
extra day of travel.
Yeah, right, true enough. And the 37th minute goal, that's El Megcar foul, and Luis Arroyo appears prepared to have a more extended conversation.
It's something we talked about in the opening, though. New Mexico did a great job of weathering that initial storm. As you see here, a little bit of prague pressure. A little turnover, a little foul here. Nothing malicious in that, just a little bit of frustration, I think, for turning the ball over. But, you know, we talked about how New Mexico is going to weather that storm. They did a good job of keeping everything in front of them. Nothing really ever too dangerous behind them, just hides that one cross and the chance where the defender fell down. But they took advantage of an opportunity, and all you need sometimes is one shot. Can change the tempo of a game.
Well, it's the 7th time in 9 games this season that New Mexico has scored first. And the 4th time on the road. They've got 1 win and 2 losses on the road when they grab the opening goal. Meanwhile, for Loudoun, conceding first this season, 4 losses in 4 games. So someone's history is going to change a little bit now. Seymour. Moreno. Moar. Slide in from Santos, but right to Seymour. Seymour went for goal. Bounces wide with a deflection, will be a corner.
As a goalkeeper, when you see that ball deflect, that's when things get a little bit nervy. It's a little bit of a hopeful shot. He's deep. There's a lot of traffic out in front, but good job here by New Mexico, switching the field of play, being patient with the ball. Seymour picks his head up. Seems like he has a good opportunity. Anytime there's a lot of traffic, it's very difficult for a goalkeeper to see through it, but defender does a good job getting the block. But at the end of the day, those are good opportunities for New Mexico that if you're Loudoun, you got to weather this storm now. You're on the flip side of it. You don't want to give up another one headed into halftime. This is an important corner here. You don't want to go down 2 after 2 quick goals after you've played so well in the first half.
It's Justin Portillo. We won the title in this league with Real Monarchs. 4 years at Charleston, yeoman's work for the NOLA native. And on to Salt Lake City for 4 years, now his 2nd season with New Mexico. There's an injury here for New Mexico United. They have just been banged up all season. The thumbs up is good news. Daniel Bruce still unavailable, trying to return from wrist surgery sooner than later. Chris Weehan just returned this past week. And Christian Nava, a brutal loss earlier this year. I thought he was really going to pop off when it wasn't meant to be. That's Will Seymour back up and about. He'll have to come off for the time being.
This is a dangerous spot if you're Loudoun because player comes off, everybody's relaxing a little bit. The last cross on this side was super dangerous. So if you're Loudoun, if you're the goalkeeper Loudoun, if you're a defender Loudoun, whoever the leader is, you got to be organized and making sure that people are switched on, because whenever there's a little bit of stoppage like that before an important moment, sometimes it's an opportunity where people will turn off at the worst time.
And does a player like Seymour coming off change your marking?
A little bit. So it all depends on whose man that was, or what type of runs he was going to make. But for me, I'd be more worried about just switching off a little bit in this important moment.
Portillo.
Well done.
Comes back through Weehan. Portillo part 2. Chica and the offside flag. So a step from Loudoun defensively alleviates the concern. In just 2 games' time, Loudoun went from 4th in position to host a playoff game to 8th the last team in the playoffs within the league. A brutal loss to Columbus. And if you want to add insult to injury, Samake brought in to DC United. He was sent off in that Columbus game in the 10th minute. But it was at halftime that they got the phone call from DC that Samake would be brought up. That would almost assuredly end his time in Loudoun. Rocha skids out.
This whole first half, I think Rocha's done a great job of connecting and kind of being the tempo of possession for his team.
All lofted long, deflects to Medcar. Navigating, tried to tee it up, and it wasn't quite on the same wavelength. Medcar pressing, able to force this out to touch. This is going to be a throw for New Mexico. By the way, there's sort of the adage in baseball. Sometimes you'll see someone pulled off the on-deck circle in the middle of a game because a trade occurs. It's not often that at halftime you find out time to pack up. It's time to head to DC.
We had a couple times in my career, we had instances where we were in preseason and somebody were to get traded or something were to happen and nobody was really sure what was going on.
Yeah.
And we were all hubbed in Arizona. And the locker room of the team the person was traded to was across the showers into the next locker room. So we've had a couple situations where guys on your team, he comes out, he practices, goes to his phone, checks his phone, says his goodbyes, says what happens, everyone's reading the update, makes their way across the locker room to start their preseason with the other group. So I've seen just about everything in soccer, but the halftime notice of a team change is a new one for me as well.
Gets blasted out of play by Weehan. Stoppage time presented by Novak. Power you can count on. And we've gone one of the three.
In the world of soccer,
yeah.
nothing's off the table.
No?
Nothing's off the table. Things happen all the time.
But I mean, being sent off in a game and then at halftime not being on that team anymore, that feels, even to an experienced pro, that feels surprising.
That's a new one. That's definitely a new one. Well, especially if you're the...
Moar. Whoa, giant ricochet. And the header out from Washington, because I don't know if there was some knuckle on that confused Faro, but it was a pretty vicious strike from Santi Moar.
When you're a goalkeeper dealing with a long-distance strike that's knuckling like that, you can tell that the ball dips on the keeper at the last minute. He does a great job of even just getting his chest behind the ball, because when a ball's moving like that, it's very hard to hold. It's very hard to get your hands in the right spot. I've seen it a lot of times where that ball goes right through the goalkeeper's hand. So you're dealing with a tough ball like that that's knuckling, that's dipping, even getting any type of body part behind it to make the save is important.
Portillo puts it up right and rose to it, but it rolls out.
I've been impressed with New Mexico's response since the first goal. New Mexico isn't relaxing. They're not going to sit on this 1-0. They keep pressing. They keep feeling that wave of pressure because they feel like they have an opportunity to get a second. And if you get a second before the second half starts, it changes the entire momentum of this game coming into halftime. So New Mexico's done a really good job of keeping the pressure on and trying to create more chances when they know that Loudoun's down a little bit.
Well, that's a card. That's dangerous with Yearwood going down. Moreno's down elsewhere on the field. And walking this off, he appeared to take some form of a challenge from Chica. All the while, this is Armenakis sending Yearwood helicoptering to the turf. It's the first card issued tonight.
Yeah, just a little bit late. You'd like to see him pull out of that challenge a little bit, especially when he's dipping his head down like that. Dangerous situation, he gets in a little bit late. Deserving of a card for sure.
Second card for Armenakis this season in his 10th appearance. And that may be the last action of the half. And it is. New Mexico makes the most of one massive chance. And Armando Moreno grabs his second goal of the season, sends this to the intermission with New Mexico ahead.
1-0 New Mexico. We're gonna be seeing a Loudoun team that's gonna be coming out chasing a goal here in the second half. Are they going to reestablish that press? Are they going to refine that energy? I know that they've had a tough travel trip, but I like that I like that there's a goal in this game because it's going to open things up for the second half, and it should be an exciting back and forth action.
So Moreno able to grab a valuable goal here on the road and in front of a friendly crowd. Loudoun United returning home. It was a long and winding trip to get here in the first place, but now that they've arrived, after a good first 30 minutes, New Mexico pulls ahead. And New Mexico holds a 1-0 advantage on the Moreno goal at the half. More coming up after the break.
Business today is fast, unpredictable, always changing. Shifting trends and technologies are pushing aside old rules. The unexpected is the new normal. Segra is here to help you get what's next with our best-in-class connectivity, cybersecurity, cloud, and collaboration solutions. Whatever your business dreams, we have the network and services to get you there. Segra, giving your business the freedom to grow today. Segra is a proud sponsor of the Loudoun United Football Club.
There are certain things we've come to expect in Northern Virginia. Traffic jams, tourists, cherry blossoms, and reliable power from Novec. With a 99.99% rating, Novec's reliability is among the best in the region. To keep that high service level, Novec regularly upgrades its electric system equipment with new poles, wire, and cutting-edge technology. Novec, delivering power you can count on.
New Mexico United has the advantage at halftime, 1-0 on a goal by Armando Moreno. And Loudoun United has some work to do here in the second half. Surely they'll look to today's player spotlight. It's defender Koa Santos from Waikoloa, Hawaii. He signed with the Major League Soccer side Charlotte FC ahead of their inaugural campaign in 2022. Koa made his MLS debut in June, 2-1 loss against CF Montreal. In April of 2022, he was loaned to USL League One side Charlotte Independence. The 5'10 defender appeared in 19 matches for the Independents, recorded a goal, 2 assists prior to his professional career. He was at San Diego State University, where he appeared in 58 matches, couple goals, 3 assists. Most notably, Santos became the first men's soccer player from the state of Hawaii to feature in the Pac-12. This year, Santos has appeared in 8 league matches, started every game he's appeared in, 2 assists, 10 key passes. He's earned USL Championship Team of the Week honors back in Week 6. All the while, you can come out and see Koa Santos on the field with his Loudoun United side when they return home on May the 28th, take on a Pittsburgh team that's rising up the standings. They've got the trip up north to Hartford, but they've got that difficult trip to California. On June the 3rd, they'll go to Monterey Bay, who've made a nice run in the Open Cup before falling just short to LAFC last week. Meanwhile, they'll take on Miami FC on the road as well, and that FC Tulsa side is renewed year over year. Worth coming out to Leesburg to take a watch. All the while, the Lab is going to be rocking when El Paso pays a visit, but that's a couple weeks away. New Mexico go take on the USL Championship's reigning title holder, San Antonio FC. Toyota Field in San Antonio. Whether or not Victor Wembanyama is there, anybody's guess. Nobody knows. Literally nobody knows. Tampa Bay Rowdies on the road as well, and then they get a nice homestand back in Albuquerque. but they've still got 45 minutes to go here in Leesburg. It's New Mexico ahead of Loudoun United at the half, 1-0. Show you first half highlights on the other side of the break.
We all have goals. But let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
Are you ready? Ready for more of the game you love? Ready for more players and more teams? Ready for more stadiums, for more fans in more cities? This is a different league. The USL Super League. Built for the future of women's soccer. Bridging the journey from youth to pro, connected to the global game, and bringing it all closer to home. Are you ready?
We all have goals. But let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
Back in Loudoun County, outside the District of Columbia, Loudoun United trailing New Mexico United 1-0 at the half. Mike Watts back with you. Let's take a look at news and notes from the USL Championship and beyond. USL Super League has announced its initial markets. They're going to go D1. They're going to start in August 2024 in that vaunted international calendar and do so with at least 8 teams. Carolina will start in Charlotte, Dallas-Fort Worth, Lexington, Phoenix, Spokane, Washington, Tampa Bay, Tucson, and yes, Washington, D.C. Attain Sports and Entertainment, the same group that owns Loudoun United and affiliated with D.C. United at the moment, with Greg Baroni overseeing the operation, is going to be part of the inaugural Super League campaign. So there is, in fact, women's professional soccer coming to Loudoun County. All the while, Sacramento is the only unbeaten side in the USL Championship in league play. It was until they fell in the Open Cup against Colorado that they were the only unbeaten professional team in American soccer, period, all competitions. All the while, there are still 2 teams remaining in the round of 16, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Southern Harm sent Birmingham Legion in through Memphis. Pittsburgh knocks off New England Revolution. They'll both feature next week on Wednesday night. You'll see Pittsburgh and Columbus, same side that knocked off Loudoun here in Leesburg last week. On the Golazo Network, Birmingham Legion and Charlotte FC be live on the BR app and Bleacher Report football YouTube page. That enough for you? No, there's more games. There are always games. Here's a look at what's going on over last weekend and later tonight. Jeff and I get the glorious opportunity to call this humdinger of a late game, Orange County and Sacramento Republic. Again, Republic haven't lost yet. Orange County has been doing some losing lately. We'll see if the trend changes. Oakland was the team that put Orange County in that precarious predicament on Saturday night, a 3-0 loss. Meanwhile, Phoenix, a 3-1 win over Hartford that they desperately needed, grabbed an early goal, conceded a penalty before half, grabbed the 2 goals they need late. And how about the upset? RGV over San Diego Loyal. All the while, that's the only game that's going on later tonight. There is a game on Friday for your viewing pleasure. It's FC Tulsa taking on Memphis 901 FC. Saturday is a loaded slate, including that Indy 11 Colorado Springs game. Switchbacks are flying out west. Indy's starting to find themselves under Mark Lowry, as most would have anticipated. I mentioned Birmingham and Pittsburgh will both be looking forward to the Open Cup, so maybe El Paso and Las Vegas will have a slightly easier path on Saturday night. All those games on ESPN+. And you probably know how to get to ESPN+, because you're watching it right now. And you'll be watching another 45 minutes. Mexico ahead by 1 at the half.
Business today is fast, unpredictable, always changing. Shifting trends and technologies are pushing aside old rules. The unexpected is the new normal. Segra is here to help you get what's next with our best-in-class connectivity, cybersecurity, cloud, and collaboration solutions. Whatever your business dreams, we have the network and services to get you there. Segra, giving your business the freedom to grow today. Segra is a proud sponsor of the Loudoun United Football Club.
Hey, welcome back to Leesburg. New Mexico United ahead of Loudoun United on this Wednesday night. It's just halftime, though. We got a long way to go. Mike, Jeff, let's take a look at our halftime highlights between these sides. New Mexico, 1 loss in their last 5 in the league. 3 straight defeats in the league for Loudoun United. And not a lot to show in the opening minutes of this game. A lot of energy expended, but not a lot of opportunities. Skip ahead to the 27th. Loudoun in a transition moment being a little more creative.
Santos has had a lot of good chances coming down this right side. He started making this overlapping run, and this is the one in the first half where the defender falls down. Was he pushed? Did he fall down? No one could tell. Williamson has an open look on net. Doesn't make the most of it, which is what Coach talked about. They got to make the most of their opportunities in front of goal.
And that's precisely what New Mexico would eventually do. So a heavy touch by Sargis opens the door here. Sargis would eventually get back into the play, but he wouldn't be able to stymie it himself.
It's the effort from Wagner on this goal. He comes back in, he wins the ball, he keeps his run, he keeps the overlapping run going, plays a dangerous ball across the box. Anytime you're on the goal line like that, play the ball across the box, see what happens, picks his heads up, find a man on the back post. Great finish here, easy finish. Moreno taps it in. Good run by Wagner to start the play and finish it, as well as we get that ball across the box.
Meanwhile, late in the half, how about Santi Moar teeing up Will Seymour? Seymour a little bit shaken up at the tail end of the half. This would go wide.
Saw his opportunity, took his touch wide. Good driven ball across the goal. Always dangerous for a goalkeeper when you're dealing with deflections and traffic in front of net.
Your first half stats are presented by Betfred. 7 shots to 5 in favor of New Mexico. Any surprise that possession's been on Loudoun's side of the ledger?
Not for me. I think Loudoun's done a good job of controlling the pace of the game the way that they wanted to beforehand. New Mexico's goal came on the counter. They do a good job of spreading out their defense as well, but Loudoun's done a good job of dictating the pace of this game. New Mexico has just done a good job of dealing with that, dealing with their possession, keeping them in front of them, and caught them on a counter in a moment of weakness. So I think it's pretty much gone to script the way that we drew it up beforehand, where Loudoun wanted to keep possession and really dictate, and you're seeing that wave of pressure coming from New Mexico and making the most of their opportunities in transition.
Well, they say you can't bring a game in a briefcase, but it sort of felt like we did coming in. 2 teams that really levied as much pressure as they could. It's New Mexico that have been able to pull out the goal, and on to the second half we go here in Leesburg tonight with 3 critical points on the line. That's a newcomer into the game. That's Josu Landry for Loudoun. Austin Yearwood comes off. Josh Suggs in for New Mexico. Changes are brought to you by Segra. Sargis, who was just getting his first minutes of the season, comes out at the half. So it'll be fascinating to see how this affects the formations. This is Ryan for Armanakis. Slices it back, met by Seymour. And ultimately touched off of Armanakis last. And it'll be a goal kick.
Loudoun's finding a lot of success with Williamson being in charge of the hold-up play. He does a good job dealing with that direct ball, laying it off, creating runs, making overlapping runs. Unlucky that they aren't able to get a corner out of that, but I'd expect to see a little bit more direct play in through Williamson because they've had a lot of success when he's holding the ball up and kind of letting Loudoun step their team up so they can reestablish their pressure with more numbers. Don't these fans know that there's children watching this broadcast?
Yeah. There's a segment of the population here that I think is unaware where the microphones are. Nevertheless. Garay.
Just like I talked about before the game with Ryan establishing this pressure, that's been the role of Wagner for this New Mexico side. If you notice, any time that there's a negative pass, he's pressing. Anytime that there's a back pass, especially to the goalkeeper, he's putting them under pressure and he's putting them in difficult situations.
That's too much from Armanakis. If he keeps this up, he'll be making a new friend, the referee, that is.
That's something that if you're Loudoun, frustrates you a little bit because you're doing a good job of establishing that press. Everything's going your way. You're squeezing him to one side. He really has no outlet. The only outlet there is either a long ball that's going to lose possession or it's going to be a foul. To foul there in that situation, it doesn't help your team out because you're not in a dangerous situation there, and you're really doing a good job of establishing your press and forcing it to one side. You almost give them a free pass out of your team setting up that press and squeezing them one side by giving them the foul there.
So to a certain extent, you've done so much good. Why
Why
bail them out?
You have everything going right. You have
Yeah.
the numbers, you have everything forced to one side. It makes it easy for your defense to pin everybody to that right side of New Mexico. His only outlet there is a long ball, or if you let him out with a foul, and that's the easy way out. Just a little bit more control in your pressure there, and then you're turning the ball over either in your defensive half or you're winning it there on the press.
Moreno gesturing. Washington stepped out with him. It's Weehan who forced the turnover. Cusp of the final third. Landry spins free. Ryan. Well, whatever Chico was trying to orchestrate, Moar wasn't buying it.
You might not see him on many stat cards, but number 4, Roca for Loudoun, has done a great job of getting the balls off of his center back and bouncing out of that press. Every time he gets the ball, he's playing quick 1-2 touches. He's moving into space where he's drawing defenders. He's drawing defenders away from open gaps, giving himself time and opportunity for people to run in behind so that even if he doesn't get the ball, he does a good job bouncing it off when he does, but even if he doesn't get the ball, he's creating space for a player like Armanakis to come in behind and get the ball into these dangerous spots. Something to keep an eye of. He's been a key part of Loudoun keeping possession.
Well, good recovery by Seymour. That started to get a little nervy. I thought for sure that had touched Armanakis en route. El Medkar. This is going to tee up nicely for an Armanakis service. Whips the cross through. It's narrowly high for Ryan. Garay kept it away from Moreno. Down the flank again. It's the aforementioned Rocha, former Big East midfielder of the year at Georgetown up the road. And New Mexico on the counter. Chica on an island. Wagner making the run. Now slipping through Weehan. Chris Weehan! He's back! And same as it ever was, Chris Weehan puts New Mexico 2 goals ahead on the road.
Another transitional goal from New Mexico. They do a good job dealing with that wave of pressure. What we see here, he picks his eyes up and they have all day to run. But I love here is a run from Wagner. He draws the defender across. There's only 2 defenders back. One has to step to the ball. The run across, run behind, opens it up for everybody else. Great finish, picks his head up, has nothing but daylight in front of him. Calm, cool, collected finish, finds the back of the net. Great transitional piece there from New Mexico. That's how you do. That's how you draw it up in practice, and that's exactly how it played out in the game. You pick your head up, you have nothing but space. The forward makes a great run to create space. There's only 2 defenders that you're dealing with. That way it leaves runners open for that overlap. Great look on goal. Good patience by New Mexico finding the open runners. Great finish, and now it's a completely different game. If you're Loudoun, you're chasing it, and now if you're New Mexico, you feel like you have all the momentum in the world.
Make that 52 goals in the championship, regular season and postseason. Weehan's illustrious run. Here's the target again, and it's picked off by Thoreau. So New Mexico got exactly what they were looking for out of the halftime break. Are you changing anything now that you've gone 2 goals ahead on the road?
If I'm New Mexico, I probably wouldn't press just as much because you don't want to give up those gaps, but they've been having success playing the way that they're playing. They always say that 2-0 is a dangerous lead to have in soccer, but you don't want to expose yourself to a transitional moment, kind of like you're seeing here. If I'm New Mexico, I would sit back a little bit and I would make Loudoun break you down in your block. They've showed that they're good at keeping possession, but they haven't had many chances in getting behind. So now if I'm New Mexico, I'm a little bit smarter with where I'm pressing. Maybe I'm not stepping out to every single pass that happens, because that way you're going to create gaps for Loudoun, and the last thing you want to do is let Loudoun get a goal to get back into this game when you get that 2-0 lead coming out of half.
Well, that was good from El Medkar, and as Ryden trotted away, put a thumb up, he knew that yellow card was coming.
Yeah, it's a smart foul. That's a smart foul in a transitional moment. A little bit of gamesmanship there, but that should be a little bit of a wake-up call to New Mexico that you don't want to get too stretched catching that trying to look for that 3rd goal, because right now you have a comfortable lead.
Armanakis puts it up, offside. And that's a lapse in concentration from Loudoun. Sue Landry the target.
We'll see how Loudoun responds here, because that's a pretty tough blow. I thought that they had a couple good looks coming out of halftime. They were getting some dangerous chances. They were establishing their pressure inside New Mexico's half. They get a little bit too ambitious, get caught on the counter. Great running from New Mexico. Really impressed with how Wagner's done. Even when he's not getting the ball, he's making smart runs that's drawing defenders with him, creating space for his other players to get opportunities.
For Loudoun, that's the 3rd goal they've conceded. First quarter hour of the second half. New Mexico, 3rd they've scored. That is the worst defending out of halftime in the league. That is the 2nd best attacking in the first quarter hour out of halftime in the league. Only Charleston has scored more goals in that 15 minutes out of the break. So I suppose to an extent, give Zach Prince his flowers while you can. Something he's saying in there should be bottled up and sold. Through from Moreno, it's excellent, but it's offside for Rivas.
Last call for alcohol sales is at the 75th minute. Last call.
You know, you have to appreciate the last call for alcohol is with 20 minutes remaining. That's plenty of time.
Seems kind of early.
I'm just saying, you get the... Sometimes you find out like 5 minutes left, and you have to sprint from the other side all the way to the beer garden, and...
That's true. Giving people a good heads up is always a nice thing.
Absolutely it is. That's Swartz paying the price.
You see that in baseball now that they've introduced the pitch clock.
Yeah.
That they've had to stretch how long the Biosers are because people were getting frustrated that they couldn't get down to enjoy a cold one fast enough.
Fast enough or often enough. This is Greg Hurst for Chris Weehan. Weehan got exactly what he came here for. He gets his second of the season in his third appearance in the league, and it's Hurst who replaces him. The sub brought to you by Segra. Oh, this is enticing stuff. Suggs for Wagner. It's tipped out corner.
This is a moment in the game where if you're Loudoun, you got to be very careful. You've dealt with a lot of things. You've dealt with the travel. You had a good first half, same thing. You had a couple opportunities, didn't make the most of them. You're at home. You got to buckle down a little bit here and don't let this game get out of hand so that you give yourself a chance. If New Mexico gets that third goal, it's going to be really hard to come back from, but there's still a lot of time left in this game to get 2 goals if you're Loudoun. Got to really buckle down and be careful here.
Portillo into the mixer. Punched away by Farrell. Well, if you're going to go punching, you might as well send it 40 yards.
That's the goal. That's definitely the goal when you're punching the ball. Clear it as far as you possibly can.
Portillo. Through for Hurst. Trying to bounce off Washington. Swartz. These center backs at times have a propensity to knock it 30, 40 yards and reset the play. It's been patient here from New Mexico, even perhaps further back than they anticipated. Tempakis. Rocha, Elmegkar, classy touch by Swartz. Elmegkar couldn't quite clip it through. Referee had a long look at that. There's nothing in it. And it's Hurst motoring the other way for New Mexico.
Those are the situations where if you're New Mexico, you just got to be a little bit careful. We talked about Rocha having a good ball, getting the ball, playing it quick, switching the field, really breaking down their press. But if you're New Mexico, you have a 2-goal lead. You don't need to be pressing in the same fashion that you were before. You don't need to be stepping out in that same manner because it's going to open up gaps over the top where you can get caught like they almost did right there. And when you're on the ball, if you're New Mexico, this is the type of game that you should love. You're playing against a pressing team. They're chasing. You know that they're going to be running at you full speed. Spread the game out, keep possession, make them run, get them tired, and just kind of pass them to death. If you're New Mexico, that's what you should be looking to do in this situation. Taking advantage of your opportunities, but also just stretching it out so you're not dealing with these counters.
Ryan did well to tee up Koa Santos. Good recovery from Mowar. Andrew Forqueray. A couple guys who were here in past years. And half this roster turned over the offseason. One of the least experienced rosters in the league entering 2023. And then with all the injuries, having to switch to a 3-back mid-game 2 games ago. With the travel and the Open Cup, really not having a chance to train it at all between the Columbus halftime and now.
All those things considered, to be fair, I think they've done a good job. You know, the 2 goals that have come, they've come on the counter. They've played the game that they wanted to play. They're pressing high. They're trying to keep possession. But when you're dealing with things like that and when things aren't going your way, you get caught on the counter. 2 shots, 2 goals, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Now, I imagine a number of teams you've been on, you train multiple formations, but ultimately you get into the game week, and it's very particular about what you expect to do and the starting positions in which you begin, especially a nuanced pressure like what Loudoun brings.
Yeah, it's always difficult. As a player, you have to have a working knowledge of how all the formations work and when you're going to switch to them. So in terms of having the general idea of what they should be doing out there, I wouldn't worry about that, but it's more about knowing where players are going to be at any given moments, how a player likes to run out of that situation, because you always want to have that level of comfortability with your teammates that if I have the ball at my feet in this formation, I know where this player is going to make their run. I know where they're going to be looking to get the ball. And we don't have time to really work on that. We don't have time to prepare for that during the week, especially on a short rest, dealing with a lot of issues. It presents its challenges.
Ooh, Ryan thought he'd stolen this away.
I'm not so sure about that one. I think I would have let that one go a little bit. But if you're New Mexico, you got to be careful.
All the while, Wagner trying to find the 3rd. He was offside. Medcar, Washington cedes the throw for Garay. Still about half an hour to go here, plenty of time. Turning, that was Rocha. Rocha tried to split the difference. Chica, the beneficiary. This is Landry. Striking forward for Williamson. Williamson was calling for that from a mile away, but Tambakis had it read perfectly. This is picked up and pushed through by Rivas. It's Moreno from a difficult angle. Follow-up hammered in. Sergio Rivas. And New Mexico is 3 goals ahead on the road now. And turns out it was worth over 2,000 miles of travel. Somos Unidos indeed.
We talked about Rivas getting the opportunity before the game. He makes the most of it. He starts this play with a good ball wide. It's a big save here by the goalkeeper. He'd want a little bit of help from his defense. But Rivas continues his run, gets the ball wide. Moreno plays a hard ball across the box. Goalkeeper makes a good save, but Rivas continues his run, picks his head up, ball lands on his feet. 3-0. And a very tall mountain to climb if you're allowed it. But Moreno does a great job. When you're in those dangerous positions, getting the ball across the box is always an important thing. Goalkeeper makes a big save, but the rebound spilled in the middle of the field, which is a dangerous area. Not much the goalie could do differently there. And then Rivas continues his run, gets the goal that he earned because he started the play as well by getting the ball wide.
That's it for Khalil Medcar. Dulzane enters the substitution, brought to you by Segra. And all of a sudden, this heavily downtrodden Loudoun side, so many injuries. They brought Leggett on for Armanakis, the stoppage as well. Trying to find a sliver of hope in this particular game. Rivas got a touch. Landry was looking for Williamson.
That goal is a good lesson for soccer players out there that, you know, if you find yourself in those dangerous positions, getting the ball on target is so important. Moreno picks his head up. He's in a dangerous spot. He doesn't overthink it. He hits a hard-driven ball across the goal. Goalkeeper makes a save, but when you hit the ball across the goal in a dangerous area, anything can happen. Rebounds can pop out. It puts the ball into a dangerous spot, and it forces the defenders and it forces the goalkeepers to react. He does a good job driving the ball across his body there, and then Rivas continues his run, gets the ball wide, continues his run, and the next thing you know, he's rewarded for his hard work, he's rewarded for his hard play. Ball pops to his feet, and it's an easy tap-in for another goal for Rivas.
Another Loudoun United game where our producer helps to pick a guy who ends up scoring in the game, too. So way to go, Justin. You've done it now. Rivas, of course, made a lot of sense. He's now scored in 4 appearances running in the league. Chica returned to center. So it's Moreno part 2, and this time it's Farrow recovering. Goals against Orange County, RGV, Monterey Bay, and now Loudoun United in successive games. Sergio Rivas.
That's one way to keep yourself in the lineup, scoring lots of goals.
And when all these guys come back, like you've been a part of these teams where you get this deluge of injuries, and coaches always say, okay, it's opportunity for next guy up. Even if there's a superstar coming in behind you, they'll find somewhere to get you on the field if you've scored 4 straight games.
Yeah, it's the hot hand. You know, in soccer, a lot of things are, what are you doing for me right now? And Rivas has proven that he deserves to be on the field with the goals he's scoring, but what I even like more about that goal was that he continues his run and he picks his head up. You know, he's not selfish in front of the net. He saw Moreno had a better look on goal, but instead of giving up on the play after Moreno takes that shot, he keeps running, he keeps his actions towards the goal. He knows he's not going to get across there, but he knows that anything can happen. And those are the type of efforts that usually get rewarded in the game of soccer, so he's done a good job of making the most of those opportunities.
Last call for alcohol sales is at the 75th minute. Last call at the 75th minute.
Talked about Santos a bit at halftime out of San Diego State. They scouted him in college. San Diego State, mentioned earlier, the first Pac-12 men's soccer player to hail from the state of Hawaii. It's Koa Santos putting it in play. 5 bodies came together, and was a Loudoun player got it last.
That seems like a surprising statistic, doesn't it? I felt like there would be more players from Hawaii that would be in the Pac-12.
You would think.
Yeah, it makes a lot of geographical sense.
It does. The same way, is it Alaska that's a Seattle Sounders homegrown territory?
We had a goalkeeper on Portland that was from Alaska.
Really?
Yes, he's like 6'8".
Well, I mean,
especially, that's what I would expect goalkeepers to look like coming out of Alaska.
It does, yes, and you can't expect them to run the Iditarod with that kind of size. I mean, that's just asking a lot of the dogs, so goalkeeping it is, huh?
It's either goalkeeping or basketball, and he went with goalkeeping, which he ended up on the Timbers, so it's been a pretty good path.
It did work out. Swords picked up here by Leggett. There's nothing in that. The USL on ESPN continues as the summer heats up. It's Memphis 901 FC. Aaron Malloy heading to the Valley of the Sun. Manuel Arteaga and Phoenix Rising FC. Phoenix-Memphis, Saturday, July 1st, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll see it on ESPN2. Louisville City looked excellent against Miami in the first USL match on ESPN2 this season. It was over the weekend. 3-spot. Ryan Omby had a great goal in that game. Louisville a point off the pace at the top of the Eastern Conference now. Washington had to get there. Instead, it's Hurst. Garay covered a lot of ground. Watch out, it's Landry for Leggett, who was offside.
Everybody clap your hands. Come on, y'all. Everybody clap your hands.
Well, this DJ knows how to get the people going. All the while, Wagner really knew how to get New Mexico's press going throughout this game. He leaves without a goal, but he did just about everything else. The sub brought to you by Segra.
He did a lot of the dirty work. You're not going to see him on the score sheet tonight, but he did a lot of the dirty work and really created 2 of the 3 goals by his effort in making smart runs. Very impressed by his play tonight. We talked about it in the open with Zach Ryan about how he needs to dictate the pressure, but it was Wagner who really dictated the pressure for New Mexico. And we talked about the timing of runs, creating space for your own players, and really, it was really smart, unselfish running, that's what you want out of your target forward. That's what you want out of your 9. He creates space. He gets rewarded for his effort on the first goal, plays a good ball across. Great night for him. Very impressed by what I saw out of that young man.
That's it for Santi Mowar, former Pfeiffer University player. Went on to Bethlehem, so up in the Philadelphia organization for a few years before making the way out to New Mexico and eventually Phoenix. Andres Robles comes in, founding member of the New Mexico Academy back in February of 2021. No players worn the shirt more in the academy than Robles has. All the while, Josh Dalling gets some valuable time here as well. English native who played at Blackburn and Man United and Burnley, the academy level, before coming to the States to play at Missouri State. Let's go back to Faroe. Can't watch the match? Turn on Sirius XM FC, channel 157. It's North America's only 24/7 source for engaging soccer talk, including USL All Access, set to return Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern. Plus your live matches from the USL, MLS, EPL, more. Sirius XM FC 157 and the SXM app. You and I were just hanging out with a Sirius XM personality today, Tony Miola.
Great guy. Good conversation. The goalkeeper union is strong.
It is. At times it's a little too much. Turned over, so it's Williamson. Williamson leading Landry, Suggs in his wake. That had to be a handball, right? From Landry, keeping that in on the line. By the way, speaking of potential cautionable offenses, supposedly that must have gone over the line, I guess. Anywho, Molar got a yellow card for an extended, elongated stretch of the legs as he made his way out a moment ago. Kawanda is going to replace Santos, meanwhile, for Loudoun.
In a 3-0 game, to get a yellow for time wasting, he must have been moving very, very slow.
I thought this was really interesting. Santos comes off, with Abdul Kawanda coming on. The player leadership group came together a couple games into the season and said, Ryan, not only does he deserve a chance to be in the 18, Kawanda deserves a chance to play. When the players themselves are sticking up for a guy that's sort of right on the outskirt of the 18, this could be trouble. And kicked away before Moreno is able to get there. It says a lot about the player that's involved. It says a lot about the players that got together to have that conversation with the coach.
It does. I mean, it's clear that he has the respect of the entire locker room when something like that happens. And if you're the man who's in that position, it's a huge confidence boost. It means that you're putting in the work in, that your teammates are recognizing that the work that you're getting put in, and for players to come together and say that means that there's another player that's going to have to kind of sacrifice in that moment. Mm-hmm. So for a locker room to come together and say that to the coach, it obviously means that he's doing a good job in the locker room and he's putting the work in, and his players want to see him rewarded for that.
Was it the Rudy Rudiger jerseys on the desk scene? Probably not, but nevertheless, that didn't play out for Loudoun, but they do maintain through Garay. Zane turned away by Ryan. That's off the mark. Now I'm rushing Robles. New Mexico have 3 goals on just 1.00 XG. They have been clinical in a way that the model can't really predict. Zane Closed down by Robles.
Is the Rudy Rudiger, was the jersey lane, is that confirmed that that was part of the story, or was that dramatics for Hollywood?
My understanding is the latter.
Yeah. That seems like it would be a dramatic rendering of a situation like that occurring.
Zane. That's brought down, and Williamson. That's his second chance. This one a little less clear cut in front of goal, and he's placed well over the bar.
I know he missed the one in the first half, but he's put in a good shift tonight. He's been dangerous on the dribble. He's done a good job in hold-up plays. He's creating runs. He's setting up teammates with through balls. He's had a good game tonight. I know that he missed the first one. He'd like to get that one back, so he probably won't remember it in a positive light, but he's done a good job in their hold-up play, and it's created a lot of dangerous chances for him.
Washington. He was the odd man out to start the year, and now with the center backs that they're missing, he's the one leading the proceedings alongside Chica. Held up by Williamson. Sent up by Kawanda. Watch out, Zane. Collected on the backside. Garay, Kawanda. Angles in across. Williamson under it again. Williamson won't be denied. This time he puts it narrowly wide. He did well to create something out of it.
We just spoke about it. He does a good job, too, to start this whole build-up. He comes back in, checks the ball, holds up the play, gets the ball wide, recirculates his run. Unfortunate not to put this one on target, but his work rate has been there all night. A couple quick touches, good ball across, but even going back on that, he starts this play with his hold-up play, and that's what you want out of your number 9. You want somebody that's strong on the ball. You want someone that's being able to deal with center backs pressing on your back and getting the ball wide, and he's done a good job of that.
Hey fans, the USL is committed to caring for the mental health of our players, fans, and communities. The Need Support campaign launched last week. It includes a partnership with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, a free confidential support line for anyone having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health crisis. Need support? Call or text 988. The captain's armbands across the league this past weekend, and for many moving forward, will feature that 988, just as the Sacramento Republic jersey patch this year will include the number 988 on it. And you know, we've come a really long way with it, but there's still so much more that this league can do to help spread awareness during this Mental Health Awareness Month to help with that.
Yeah, it's something that's come to the forefront, and you know, I think that the main thing is being open, having open communication about it, and you know, not being afraid to call that number if you're dealing with something, because I think a lot of people struggling with mental health are, you know, a little bit afraid to pick up the phone and call that friend, or you know, call that helpline that can really get them out of a situation that they're dealing with. And you know, really just the more that we normalize people seeking out mental health, it's a great thing, and it's a great initiative taken on by the league.
Set piece here for Loudoun. That ball knotted away. And driven out toward the halfway line. It'll be an ongoing talking point, not only this month of May, but moving forward throughout the upcoming season. Kyle Colonna has entered here for New Mexico. This is his first appearance in the league for New Mexico United. He did play 90 minutes in the opening Open Cup game for New Mexico. So welcome under the lights, Kyle Colonna, the San Diego State alum. Kawanda. That's Rocha.
Kawanda's done a good job since coming into the game. It's not surprising that his teammates wanted him to get the opportunity to play on the field. Despite the scoreline, the effort's been there. He's been dangerous when he has the ball on the dribble. He's been smart in possession, bringing the ball back, restarting with his goalkeeper when he needs to. You can tell why his teammates like him just from the little bit that we've seen in terms of his energy, his effort, and really his ability to create a little bit on the dribble, because he's quick, he's low to the ground, and you know, for field players, if a player's a little bit shorter than everybody else, it's hard to win that ball from him when they're taking those quick touches, and you know, it's hard to step in and not foul a player like that. So it's easy to see why his players want him to be on the field.
And one of the best players in league history, Salman Asante. Not the biggest guy, but good luck trying to win the ball off of him.
One of the best players in the world, Lionel Messi.
Yeah, well, true enough.
Not the tallest of guys, but you know, when someone that size gets the ball on their feet and they're dribbling at speed and they're not taking big touches, it's hard to win the ball from them.
Well, this is exciting here. Brian Chavez comes in for Zach Ryan for Loudoun United. The substitution brought to you by Segra. Chavez out of the DC United Academy. Ryan Martin indicated we'd get a look at him sooner than later. A guy with the ability to play in the 10 or maybe a withdrawn 9. We'll see how it plays out for Loudoun here. About 10 minutes remaining in a 3-goal hole.
No pressure for a substitute in this situation. So he's a young man who's getting his opportunity to play, and you're down 3-0. There's not much expectations on you when you come into this moment. So hopefully we see him play a little bit free, a little bit loose, and not really deal with those types of pressures as if you're coming into a close game.
Some applause there, and for Chavez, this is his professional debut. Didn't feature in Loudoun's first ever Open Cup appearance. The past had been tied to DC United, never got the chance to play in the tournament. Usually you'd think I'd be talking about the player. Really, I was talking about the team. Nevertheless, there is a foul here, and maybe an opening here for Loudoun to try and get one back. As a goalkeeper, where are your eyes here?
You got to make sure that everybody's picked up first. You want to make sure that the line has all their marks and everybody's organized. And then once you have everything organized, you pick your head up, find the ball. But really, you want to look for the dangerous spots. So they've loaded their back post. You want to make sure that everybody's in their right spots. Normally in training, you have those types of things sorted out, but it's really just about reestablishing everybody's position and making sure that there's nobody that's going unmarked.
Push into Sane. Well, the New Mexico fans that came all this way, they've got a distinct feeling now.
I think they can feel pretty confident in that chant at the moment. Always fun when fans who put the effort in and travel get rewarded with a good performance from their team. So I'm sure they'll be getting on their flight back to New Mexico pretty happy.
I was just talking to Zach Prince a bit about, as they went to Austin, their trip to the Open Cup quarterfinal, the inaugural season. This ball slipped through. That's excellent. A push from behind on Leggett. And the referee points to the spot. It is a penalty, and maybe Loudoun can get one back here and create a real problem. Kalen Ryden shown a red. Ryden was on a yellow card. Now he's done.
A yellow card has been issued in the 85th minute.
It's a good run in behind. Ryden as the last defender. It's a big touch. It's a big touch by the Loudoun forward. Gets his arm on him a little bit of a shove. I'm not sure on that one, to be completely honest. I'm not sure that's a second yellow worth of red. The forward goes down a little bit easy. He takes a big touch. He gets his arm on him, but anytime you touch a player in the attacking area, the attacker for Loudoun does a good job of making it known that he got a hand on him. He falls, he takes a little bit of a spill, and at that point you leave it into the ref's hands, and anytime you leave it up to the ref, it can go either way. But you know, if you're riding, you're gonna feel a little bit hard done by that red card. I know it's a double yellow, but at the same time, he just gets a little bit of an arm on him. But anytime that you're putting a defender under pressure like that and you touch somebody in the box, you have to be careful. And Loudoun has an opportunity here to make it a little bit interesting.
Well, Ryden's going to be mulling this over on the way back, but let's not forget they have to go to San Antonio in their next game, the game where you need your center backs to play out of their minds to have a chance. So it's Williamson who heads to the spot against Tembakis. Williamson has 1 goal this year. They know when he gets hot, he could really become a scorching attacking option for Loudoun. Tembakis bouncing on his toes. Luis Arroyo blows the whistle. Can Williamson pull one back? Yes, he can! 3.5 minutes before stoppage time, and Loudoun off the schneid.
Great composed finish here on the penalty kick. Again, a little bit tough on the penalty, but he called what he called. Good hard run up by Williamson. He sends the goalkeeper the other way by taking those hard first steps. You think he's going to drive it hard across his body, and at the last second, he picks his head up, opens up that shoulder, and passes it into the goal. A really, really well-deserved goal by Williamson. He earned that with his hard work tonight from the spot. Very calm, very composed. You're going to see a little bit of life here from Loudoun. And if you're New Mexico, I talked about it earlier, how sometimes once you have that comfortable lead, if you keep chasing, you're going to open up gaps and you're going to create opportunities for the other team. They have a big cushion here, but at the same time, if you're New Mexico, you got to be smart about how you're pressing, because you're leaving gaps, and when you leave gaps, things like penalty calls can happen.
Second goal of the season for Williamson. The last 5 shots of this match over the preceding 20 minutes all belong to Loudoun, and now they're up a man as well. Get one more, and all of a sudden this is going to get very chaotic.
Game on. I spoke too early about the New Mexico fans chanting. I spoke way too early about that. Williams earned that goal, though, the whole night. He's been a workhorse for him. He's been holding up play.
Here comes Zane through Landry, met by Seymour. Swartz had to play it. And it's been a very quiet night for Dowling up front. The nature of the game he entered didn't really ask much of him.
In the 85th minute, New Mexico United's yellow card to number 22, Kalen Ryden, was his second yellow card of the match.
It took about 88 minutes to get here, but now I'm still interested to see how New Mexico defends in their block, if they ever get to that block defending.
By the way, that's the 3rd New Mexico red card of the season. That's most in the league. Nothing malicious in it. It's just, now here you are again. Zane did well to step out of the way of that.
In those situations, it's a call. I think it's a call that can go 50-50. Anytime a player goes down in the box, it's up to the ref. It's up to the ref's judgment. When you're a defender and you put a hand on somebody in the box, you're putting yourself in a position where you're leaving it up to the fate of the ref. Was it worth the second yellow? I'm not entirely sure, but that was the ref's decision. And when you get yourself stretched, when you let teams get in behind you and you're forced as the last defender to make a decision, he puts his hand on him, the attacker goes down, and you know, not only are you putting your team under a little bit of pressure in this game, but going forward for the next game. Now you're not going to be there, and you know, it's a situation that I think was definitely avoidable, but at the same time, now it's kind of flipped the game on its head a little bit with a couple minutes left if Loudoun can make this last push.
Good news is Sam Hamilton is going to return in that next game from his red card suspension. Good work from Zane. It's Landry. Able to slice back the end line. Sent out to the halfway line. That's a short respite. It's Garay working through Rocha. There should be a decent amount of stoppage time remaining. 2 players went up for it, and ultimately it's as if it never happened at all. It's offside.
Slow jog to the ball. Gonna see a lot of time wasting here.
Is this what got Moar his yellow card earlier?
I think so.
Crowd just reacted. The 5 goes up from the 4th official, and all of a sudden, you realize there's still a little juice left to squeeze. Dalling. Williamson. What stick-to-itiveness from Swartz. You surprised Dalling is this high up the field? Or is the fact he's alone sort of allow him to shape it?
He's alone, which you know, it allows him to shape it a little bit, but I'm still, especially with 10 men, up by 2 goals, this is a time of game where it doesn't matter if Loudoun has the ball here. There's no danger of them having the ball here. The only thing you're doing by chasing is creating spaces for him, so you want to have a little bit of pressure so that there's a little bit of pressure on the ball, but it's all about being organized in your block. Keep everything in front of you so nothing gets behind, and if they're taking shots from 25, 30 yards out, let the goalkeeper deal with that all day. If you have to deal with crosses, that's fine too. Just stay organized here and don't let anybody get behind you.
Ball through, Williamson turns. He had Leggett well marked, top the 6. With Loudoun. There's still 3 minutes here. Ball through, it's Williamson again. Williamson cuts back. Williamson denied by Tempakis. Williamson waiting, firing high! And New Mexico dodging bullets.
Great save here by the goalkeeper. Williamson does a good job keeping the defender on his shoulder. Nice little cutback, good look on goal. Big save here by the goalkeeper. If that goes in, 3-2 is a completely different game. He picks his head up. Unfortunately, he couldn't find anything on the second rebound, but again, if you're New Mexico, I don't understand why you're pressing so high. Just drop back and keep the game in front of you. These runs by Williamson are getting in behind you and causing dangerous situations for you that you don't need to be dealing with at this stage in the game with this type of lead.
You know, I spoke to Zach Prince a little bit about it. You know, the Phoenix game, they scored, and then they had a chance to score a second, the heads go down, and all of a sudden it's, okay, let's try and defend out 1-0. That's not the situation you're in anymore. You're down to 10, you're up by 2, it's a minute and a half to go. New Mexico is going to be able to leak plenty of time off. This is exactly what they needed.
Yeah, a little bit of time waste, a little bit of a slow walk here, which is to be understood by New Mexico. But, you know, again, Williamson has been causing them troubles the entire evening, whether it's making his runs behind, holding up the play, creating dangerous chances. You need your goalkeeper to make a save on the road. You need your goalkeeper to make a big save on the road to make sure that your team secures a win. Tempakis does that with that save there, but it's all about keeping the game in front of you if you're New Mexico. Keep the game in front of you, slow play this thing out, hold the ball up here in the corner, let number 9 use his big body, hold it in the corner, fight off a couple 30 seconds so you can ride this thing out.
Well, the Piers mission accomplished. They're going to go to San Antonio next and then return home for the El Paso game. That doubles as Devin Sandoval night, handing out posters of your former teammate in that game.
That's awesome. Devin's a great guy, great teammate. The amount of love that Devin had for the state of New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque, I mean, he is Mr. New Mexico to me. So that's awesome that the club's rewarding him with that type of special evening. I know it'll be really special for him and his family.
Still working a bit around the academy, ambassador for the club. It's Rivas, who's now scored in 4 games in a row. Rivas, Kawanda. There's still work to do here. Hurst and the dying embers. It's going to be a corner, and that should take us over the line tonight. Well, these are 3 points that New Mexico didn't necessarily need to have. But in the current context of the season, it's 5 out of 6 unbeaten. It's their second road win of the campaign. And New Mexico United are back above the playoff line with a strong performance on the East Coast against Loudoun United. A 3-1 victory for New Mexico, leading into their game against the reigning title winner San Antonio next week.
We talked about it before the game. This was a good opportunity that New Mexico felt like this was a good opportunity for them to come in and get 3 points. They did a good job that we talked about weathering that initial storm, dealing with the press at Loudoun because the press was having success early on. They did a good job. They had some goals against the run of play. Caught them on the counter a couple times, clinical in front of net, and that's how you draw up a win on the road.
30 minutes without a shot, including in stoppage time, which was brought to you by Novec, delivering the power you can count on. And Loudoun falls 2 goals short. Let's take a look at the save of the game. It's brought to you by Segra. It's the only save that Farrell had to make.
He does a good job getting low across his body. Those are tough for goalkeepers. When you're shifting one way, all your momentum's taking you one way. Hard-driven ball down across the box. It's hard to get low like that. He does a good job getting his hand to it. Gives up a little bit of a rebound, but he does a good job getting his body shifted and shifting back to the other side, which is not an easy thing for a goalkeeper to do.
So the flying Frenchman makes 1 save here in defeat. We're going to step aside, return with the post-game coverage, a look at the highlights on the other side. Final score brought to you by Segra. New Mexico 3, Loudoun 1. Your final score is brought to you by Segra. New Mexico United now 5 out of 6 without defeat in the league. And move above the playoff line tonight. Loudoun hangs in 8th. Mike, Jeff, a look at the full-time highlights. The goals. Armando Moreno closer to home in the 37th minute opens the scoring.
Great work here by Wagner. Gets the ball across. Moreno finds himself in the right spot. Against the run of play again. That was the theme of the night for the goals for New Mexico, but does a good job, right place, right time. Big hug at the end. I'm sure that was somebody special in the crowd.
Absolutely. How about Weehan back into the team and doing so with aplomb in the 51st?
In transitional moments, good overlapping run. Wagner, again, I talked about him a bunch, but he makes a smart run to clear space. Weehan picks his head up, finds himself in front of goal, tucks it into the corner. Great finish.
In the 64th minute, you thought Sergio Rivas, 3 goals, 3 games, everything's right in the world. How about make it 4-4?
He does a good job continuing his run. He gets the ball on top of the box, plays it wide. Moreno shoots the ball hard across his net. Dangerous spot for a goalkeeper, dangerous spot for the defense. Rivas continues his run, picks his head up, and finds himself an easy tap in.
Loudoun would get 80% of the possession in the final 15 minutes. It helps Leggett earn a penalty and send off Ryden for Williamson to step up and score.
Hard-earned goal. Williamson worked hard all night. Great on the ball, good in possession. Did a lot of the dirty work, and it's good to see him rewarded on the score sheet.
Here's a look at the final stats and a chance for your final thoughts on this one, Jeff, as we close it out. New Mexico That's a really important 3 points.
It is. You know, New Mexico had a good chance to win this game coming into it. We knew that coming in, and Loudoun did a good job in their possession as well. You can see that they had 60-40 possession. They really dictated the pace of the game until the score sheet got a little bit out of hand, but New Mexico did a good job establishing their press, turning the ball over, and taking advantage of those transitional moments.
No rest for the weary here for Loudoun United. They'll go on the road to Hartford over the weekend, play again. For New Mexico, they head back home. Then they'll go to San Antonio on the 27th for that vaunted game. Those fans get to have a happy trip home to Albuquerque. A 3-1 win for New Mexico on the road. Post-game coverage presented by Segra. For Jeff Antonella, our entire team in Loudoun County and beyond, Mike Watt saying thanks for watching. And so long for now. New Mexico wins it above the playoff line.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.